Hey, what's up, world? How's it going? Coming from a Browns fan here, I wanted to make a video as this is kind of starting to enter the prime season of the NFL with fun news, craziness, and just a whole bunch of shenanigans and random crap going on. So I wanted to see or kind of express my take as a Browns fan on the whole league itself, and just a quick thought or two with each respective team in the NFL, where I think they are currently standing in the NFL and like what the situation is or how they're going to do. Um, just a quick synopsis from my perspective and kind of just I don't know, see we'll guess and see how free agency plays out in the draft as well. So, but no, I wanted to get my thoughts on this current period of time right now with all 32 teams and kind of where everyone's standing at. Interesting time, like I said, as a Browns fan, it's pretty exciting for this time period. Usually the draft is our Super Bowl of the year. Fortunately, this year it's not that much the case, so that's awesome. Um, However, as a Browns fan, again, I know I keep saying that, but look forward to the free agency period. I think the Browns might make some moves. So, yeah, I wanted to get started with all 32 teams and kind of just give a quick rundown. And I'll be fully transparent too. I'm a pretty good NFL fan. Don't keep up with everything like some people. It's not my full time job, obviously. So there's a few teams, especially in the NFC, where I don't know too much about, and I'll be completely honest about it when I reach about them. I'm just going to go through a list on ESPN of just all the teams and kind of just do a quick recap of where I think everyone's at. So starting with the NFC East, first team, go figure, is America's team. Yeah, Dallas Cowboys. They're in an interesting spot. They obviously just signed Dak to that contract extension, so I think that's a good move on their end. I think Dak is kind of he's he's a funky quarterback in terms of how good he is. He's kind of in that range where he's not elite, but he's not just good. He's above that. His contract makes it seem like he certainly is elite, which I don't know. By this time period in life in the NFL, as any QB, you're going to get a huge, massive contract. So, curious to see how that plays moving forward. I'm a fan of him as a quarterback. Um, but I don't know if he's that great as some people make it seem. I feel like a lot of his stats and playing, I don't know, were just all from due to circumstances, especially this past season, with them being down and them having to pass the ball the whole time. And I know, again, watching the Browns versus Cowboys game, Dak lit us up. A, well, we have a crappy defense, but B, it just was kind of a dead period of time where we had the lead and we're playing prevent defense. So, of course, he's going to go off, and everyone freaked out about that. I don't know. I think that's kind of garbage time, and who kind of really cares with that? Nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see how they approach free agency and the draft moving forward. I think they're a team that should be okay. Obviously, their head coach is the major question mark in my mind. Also, with a new defensive coordinator in place, I think they'll be better off. Curious to see how they fill a lot of their holes on the team. Number two, sticking in the NFC East, we'll start the NFC East division. The New York Giants. I just read some online stuff how they're still sticking with Daniel Jones, and I think that's. I mean, at this point, you can't really do much with that since there's no quarterbacks that are really available that are worthy of anything spectacular in free agency. Of course, you could trade for the crazy names like Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, but keeping it realistic, I just don't see that happening, especially for the Giants. Um, but Daniel Jones, they keep putting a lot of backing in him, which I guess makes sense. It's Gettleman's the one that drafted him, and of course, he's going to back up his QB he drafted, or else his job's done. But I don't think he's that great, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist or I don't know. It takes someone watching their first NFL game to realize that he's a below average quarterback. He could be average, I guess, which some Giants fans might be okay with. I don't know. It's pretty clear he's not an above average quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be in that top 10 range either. Yeah, there's missing positions all around, golden tape, blah, blah, blah. Not that great. Every team deals with that crap. You can kind of tell when a quarterback's good or not. Who cares what the pieces are around them to a certain degree. Nonetheless, I thought, I know when the Browns played them, I thought they had a really good defense. I think they franchise tagged Leonard Williams as this time in this video, which is a nice move. I know there's that other, I think Tillman maybe, the other tackle or defensive tackle on them that would be a big loss if they lose him. But yeah, if they could probably fill some gaps in offense or defense and offense, they're going to have to draft some wide receivers to get some more playmakers. Hopefully Saquon comes back for them. And it'll be interesting to see how they go record wise and just kind of how they approach everything moving forward. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, I think, are a hot mess, and I would argue they're probably one of the worst teams in the NFL at the moment. They're moving forward with Jalen Hurts at this time. Of course, that could be all smoke and mirrors until they draft a rookie QB. I think it's pretty clear that Jalen Hurts is not that great. Yeah, again, he doesn't have weapons, blah, blah, blah. He did better than Carson Wentz. Ooh, yay. That's hard to do this past season, you know? Yeah, the team was just so old and a lot of veterans. Obviously, they released a lot of guys recently. Don't know. I think they're going to be probably the worst team in the division next year if I had to bet right now. Of course, like I said, the draft or some crazy trade or something might end up changing that. But I would say, as of right now, I'd bet the Eagles to be the worst team in the division. And my sneaky team, looking at the next team in the NFC East, would be the Washington Redskins. Huge fan of their defense when the Browns played them this past year. Defensive line's insane. I don't know why more teams don't try to emphasize the defensive line and put more talent and more money on there because it clearly makes a difference, as the Redskins now know. Obviously, the big thing with them is they don't have a QB at the moment, and I don't know what their options really are. Some NFL media people are putting Cam Newton towards them, and I think any Redskins fan, any common sense NFL fan would say screw that. Unless you're a rival of them, you're going to welcome it with open arms. Don't really know, though, what other options are. Alex Smith was a cool comeback story, but yeah, being realistic, release and move on. Have a nice day, Alex Smith. It's going to be interesting to see how they approach their quarterback situation. Like I said, if they can get that situated, big fan of their starting wide receiver. I can't remember his name right now. He's a beast. And their defense is insane. Going to the NFC North, Chicago Bears, I think, are another hot mess. They're in that, what I would call the NBA purgatory of being a good team, not great, not bad, where they can get not bad enough, where they can get a high draft pick. They have no QB to, I don't know, Nick Foles. Even, like, it's sad when the point of, like, signing Mitchell Trubisky back might literally be the best move. They're in a horrible situation. They're obviously one of the major players for a potential Russell Wilson trade if that does somehow come to fruition, but I doubt it will. They might have to pull something crazy in the draft, or I really don't know what they're going to do. Quarterback's a mess. Their defense is good, but no. You can't do much if your quarterback is non-existent. That's just the end of the day. And I'm not a fan of Matt Nagy at all. I think he's crap. So I'm pretty sure a lot of Bears fans would agree with that. And their GM, I don't know how the owners kept him that long, Ryan Pace, with all these stupid moves, especially these contracts. Like trading for Nick Foles was dumb. The Mitchell Trubisky draft pick in general, but easier said now than, hindsight. It's easier said. Like it would have been a better decision to draft, obviously, like Deshaun Watson or one of those other crazy guys. I think it's Mahomes. Sorry. Yeah, Mahomes in that draft. Get those mixed up. Either way, messed up on his end. Don't know what they're really doing. At least they franchise tagged Allen Robinson, which I guess is good. I don't know if he wants to stay there or not, but whatever. NFC North and Detroit Lions. Lions are a team that are probably they didn't franchise tag two of their main guys, including Galladay. So I could see them kind of going in tank mode. They obviously have Jared Goff now as QB. I think that's probably a placeholder, and I don't know how that works with down the road exiting that contract, if it's easier next year, the following year, what have you. But I could see him just kind of being okay for a little bit, just how we're maintaining, build a team in other positions, and then somehow manage to get a quarterback later on. Probably be the strategy that Detroit's going to approach. Their coach, he seems like a really cool guy. I don't know, I'm rooting for him. His press conference was awesome, and I've seen different interviews that he's had with Pat McAfee and like other guys as well. He just seems like a really cool dude, so I'm rooting for him. And obviously, former Browns GM John Dorsey is now in their front office, so that guy can spot talent from a mile away. So I think that's going to be a huge addition for them, and I know they have some decent names in the front office as well. So interesting to watch them moving forward. Green Bay Packers, status quo in my opinion. Their coach is surprisingly doing decent with Rodgers. And then you have Rodgers. I believe they want to lose one of their running backs. So that's going to be issue. I know they have that AJ or Dillon, whatever his first name is. I think it's AJ Dillon, CJ Dillon, AJ Dillon, something like that. AJ Dillon. But yeah, with his big trunk legs, it's insane. I've never seen videos on that. But anyways, yeah, the running back will replace him, the guy leaving free agency. Defense, they still have some holes. I feel like they never approach defense properly. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I still think they're going to be one of the better teams in the NFC, probably at least make the NFC Championship, just because they always do and they always lose it. Last team in the NFC North is the Minnesota Vikings. I think this is the definition of a team in the worst spot in the NFL. Coming from a Browns fan, just because they're at the point where they're good, not great, and they don't seem like they try to even become great. They're satisfied with the status quo of being good, being a first or second round exit in the playoffs. In this case, this year, not even making it. Kirk Cousins sums it up right there. He's a good quarterback. He's not great. He's been probably exceeding my expectations and most NFL fans' expectations, which is good for Vikings fans. Obviously, Jefferson's a beast as a wide receiver. He's probably the best young wide receiver in the game right now. Defense has holes. I have a Vikings friend, I should say, that's a Vikings fan who always complains about their defense, and so I'm sure their defense is a mess, and I've just kind of seen that too. Yeah, interesting to see how they will be. They'll probably be another 9-7, 10-6 season, just because that's always the case with them, it seems like. Moving on to the NFC North, Atlanta Falcons. This is a team I don't really keep up with too much, because who the hell cares about the Atlanta Falcons, honestly? Obviously, you have Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, who are beast. Julio Jones always disappoints in fantasy football, let me tell you that. I'm still a fan of him, though. They have new coach, new GM, so I think that might help with some changes in Atlanta, which is needed, since they're notorious for blowing leads and just not finishing games left and right. They are a team that always seems like they do have a decent amount of talent, but they never have enough. I don't know. They're also in that purgatory in the middle of the NFL where it's like you're the 7th, 8th seed in the NBA playoffs or whatever. It's just like, who cares? You're nobody still. Congratulations, you made the playoffs. Now get out. Carolina Panthers, another team I don't know too much about. Obviously, Matt Rule, though, is a beast as their head coach. I believe McCaffrey should be back next year. Hopefully good to go. Let me know about that. If that's the case, that's obviously another weapon. Teddy Bridgewater, that whole situation, maybe I do know a little bit more about him. Teddy Bridgewater, that whole situation's weird. So they're kind of like throwing out the idea that, we'll trade you for, who was it, Matthew Stafford, I believe they were trying to go after, or one of these other quarterbacks, like potentially throw in the package. And it just kind of, I don't know. I don't like it when a front office kind of messes with the idea of getting rid of your starting QB when he's probably going to be your starting QB, because there's not really that many other options. So that's kind of a weird situation where they have an improving team around them. I like how last year in the draft they just went all defense. I think that's awesome. But yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is just kind of a middle row quarterback too, so I don't really know how they go about that. New Orleans Saints, obviously credit to them, their front office, all the articles I've been reading, like how there's cap wizards and they managed to always be in cap space hell, and then they managed to somehow do some weird magic, and then all of a sudden, boom, we have plenty of space to re-sign our guys and acquire new players. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't know what Breeze is doing. Like, it doesn't look like he's going to retire now, but he should. He can't throw more than like 20 yards. I don't know. I mean, that's perfect for the slant king, but yeah, nothing exciting about the Saints. I think they're going to be in the same situation. They'll make the playoffs, and then I don't know. I just don't see them going all the way or going to the NFC Championship. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have Tom Brady. Enough said. Dude's a beast. He could be 50 and he'll still be winning games. They just signed David, the linebacker, one of the Browns to get. I just saw that notification. Like, what the heck? Of course, they have cap space magically too, and they're working on extending Shaq Barrett supposedly. Curious if that actually pans out or not, because he should be getting a crap load of money. So if he signs with them, that means that he's going to give him a hometown discount, which is good for them, I guess. But I don't know. NFC West, Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, they took our beloved J.J. Watt, who's supposed to come to the Browns. I'm a fan of the Cardinals. I'm a big fan of Kyler Murray. I think he's kind of an underrated quarterback when it comes to the top QB discussion, like who's in that group. I think he kind of doesn't get enough credit to his name. Also got DeAndre Hopkins. Got a decent amount of defensive players who are actually decent names. So I think they're a team to watch. Their head coach is, I don't know, he's okay. I think that might be the whole holdback with the team doing well. Maybe he can improve. I don't know, but I like them overall. I think their direction's going. They're going in the right direction. Rams with Stafford. I think this could be a potential Super Bowl pick for me. At least make it to the Super Bowl. Stafford's clearly an upgrade over Goff. I thought he was a little bit underrated in the Lions years with how much credit he deserved too. As long as they can maintain their defense, I know they're going to probably lose a couple guys. We'll see how that works out. Keeping that defense mostly intact, I think they'll be pretty strong team still moving forward. 49ers, what do you do with Garoppolo? I don't know. Sounds like they might keep him, they might not. I would like them personally as just an NFL fan and like enjoying watching teams prosper and do well while the Browns suck. No, but enjoying teams do well. Honestly, I think it'll be fun to see him get one of the young rookies in the draft and see how how Shanahan molds that rookie, especially in that kind of offense, which the Browns were in something similar. And I'm a big fan of that offense, so I think that'll be kind of cool for them to do that. And obviously, they'll be getting a lot of injuries and all those guys back, hopefully. So I think they should be a team that should be pretty well set. Seahawks are a mess. I think it's going to be, I don't know. When you have the whole Russell Wilson stuff going on, I guess it works out at the end sometimes, but it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to be the same, I guess. I don't know. You can't have both parties saying this and then, I don't want, I'm content being here, but here are the teams I would want to go to. Like, who says that? I don't know. Cap space are a mess. They never have a good offensive line. I don't know why. I feel like their GM is overrated too, and so is Pete Carroll. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm the only minority in that. But yeah, they do a good job of courting talent. Think of Jamal Adams, but what do you do? Look how that worked out for them. All right, moving on to the AFC West. Denver Broncos. They're actually a team I don't follow too much because, again, who cares about the Denver Broncos right now? Who is their quarterback is drawing a blank in my mind. Yeah, that tells you how relevant it's. What's his name? The guy that can't throw, or he has a good arm, but he's not accurate. Yeah, they should just replace him. They do have insane weapons on offense, though. I think their weapons they're kind of, in a weird way, a loaded team without being loaded. I'm curious to see what they do with Von Miller. Kind of want the Browns to get him, so I hope they kind of let him go and move on from him. I think Bradley Chubb is coming back from injury, or if he was back or something, I don't know. But he was a beast because I know he was in discussion for that fourth pick when we drafted Denzel Ward. The Browns did instead of him. So I've been a fan of him, followed him a little bit. Kansas City Chiefs have Mahomes and Andy Reid, enough said. Las Vegas Raiders are a team that I just don't get this team at all. They just bug me because they have enough pieces where they should do well. I just don't get how they draft. They draft horrible. At least their early picks are just horrible. They try to be that cool guy who drafts that person that no one thought of, and there's a reason why no one has them slotted that early because they're not that good. But it takes, I don't know, Mayock and Gruden to figure that out. I don't. They're just stupid. They bug me because when you have that, like, certain pieces they have, like Josh Jacobs and their tight end, and even Derek Carr, I think is decent. I don't know. I feel like you could do more with that, but their defense is always bad too, and they just don't know how to go about it. And that trade they did the Patriots for the tackle, who's drawing a blank in my mind, right, or Trent Brown. That's probably going to end up working for the Patriots extremely well. It was like a 7th round pick or some late round pick. I don't know. They piss me off, that front office. They really do. Nonetheless, they're still an okay team. As long as you have Derek Carr and those weapons in offense, I think they'll be okay. Los Angeles Chargers, I think they're going to take a huge step. It's going to depend on how their coach is moving forward. Justin Herbert's a beast. Really shocked me. Was not a fan of him coming out of college. I thought it was a horrible pick. That's why I don't work in the front offices or anything, though, because I clearly was wrong. I would argue he's probably the best rookie in the NFL this past season. So they got high hopes, and I think they'll do pretty well. AFC South. Texans are going to be the worst team in the league, probably. Them and the Eagles should say hi to each other and get used to each other down in the bottom. Enough said, they're a mess. Good luck with them. Indianapolis Colts. As a Browns fan, they always seem like they're kind of now, at least in the last few years, we're kind of always comparing each other to each other. We're kind of the same level of not like the top in the AFC, but now we're kind of like that tier below. That's kind of like, hey, we're on a similar path. Um, Loaded team all around them. Uh, Carson Wentz is obviously the big story with them. I'm not really sure how he's going to do. That could go one way or the other. Obviously, their head coach worked with him in the Eagles, and that's when he was doing the best. So hopefully that works out for them. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Um, Jacksonville Jaguars obviously have Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence right now. They have, I think, the most cap space in the NFL. I could see them kind of becoming a sneaky, dangerous team actually this season already. I can see Trevor Lawrence stepping up big. Huge fan of their young weapons. And yeah, with all this whole draft capital, they pretty much could be the kings of this offseason of just acquiring players left and right of teams who have to cut or release or move on for certain players due to cap reasons. I could just see them picking a lot of people up and just all of a sudden becoming really good. Tennessee Titans, I think they're also a team that would throw in with the Colts and the Browns, kind of there but not there. Tannehill, kudos to him. He's a beast right now. And Mike Vrabel, I guess I'm a fan of, kind of. Love the offense because it's a similar offense to what we run. Derrick Henry's obviously a beast. Defense is kind of blah. I think they're going to lose that one starting linebacker who's kind of known. Maybe I'm wrong with that. Let me know. Don't know too much about the rest of the Titans. Obviously, they're going to lose. There's that wide receiver, Corey Davis, which I think for them would be. He seemed like it was a good fit for them. It's one of those situations where I think that would be the best solution for both sides of the coin to agree for him to stay in maybe even a little bit less of a contract or something. I could just see him being a player that goes somewhere else, and he just doesn't meet expectations. Moving on to the AFC East, we have the Buffalo Bills, and I think they are one of the more dangerous teams in the NFL. Obviously, Josh Allen really stepped up this year. He's a beast. Huge fan of the head coach. Partially also because the Browns, our Moneyball guy wanted him, so I'm a little bit biased. Just thinking of maybe that our Moneyball guy's on to something. I don't know. Got players all around, good defense. They did a great job with that Diggs trade, even though you could have had Jefferson, whatever, but Diggs is clearly an amazing fit with them, and they built that offense with the wide receiver additions really well around Josh Allen, so kudos to them. Miami Dolphins, they're a team. I don't like Tua. I think Miami Dolphin fans are like giving more time, blah, blah, blah. If your coach is putting in Ryan Fitz magic and for certain game situations over Tua, that says a lot. Coming from a Browns fan, we were experiencing that when a coach wants to put in a player that actually can play better over a player that someone else wants to play just to see him play, whether that be a GM or an owner. Yeah, it never usually ends up working well. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Tua steps up, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure people have this excuse, that excuse for last year, but every team has excuses. I think excuses are a little bit overplayed. Nonetheless, they have a dangerous team and a good team around them too. So as long as the quarterback situation works out, maybe if they could trade for a guy like Deshaun Watson, I think that would be insane. Who cares if they give up a few first-round picks? Whoop you do. New England Patriots, I think they are in a situation where they could be okay depending on what they do at quarterback. Because they're one of the teams that this past season had a lot of people step out due to the health or what's going on in the world right now due to those reasonings. So they'll get a lot of players back. They can manage somehow to get like a Garoppolo or maybe a young draft pick that ends up being pretty decent. I could see Belichick working his magic and just making them be even almost a wild card berth team, I guess you can say. So they could be a team to watch out for, but they could also be a team that just absolutely tanks and does nothing. So it could be an either-or scenario. I know they have no weapons in offense, for like wide receivers, relatively speaking. So it'll be interesting to see how they are moving forward. New York Jets, huge fan of Saleh, their head coach. They are in a good spot with number 2. I hope they don't mess it up because it's kind of easy in that situation where you don't have the guaranteed guy like Trevor Lawrence. You have a few options, whether it be Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, or trade down. Um, it's easy to mess that up, actually, from a Browns fan experience. I'm sure Jets fans, you can relate when you have a front office. It's a little shaky. I know they have different guys in there now than years in the past. Hopefully prove stuff wrong, but there always ends up being a way where it's not any different. Um, so I hope they get a young quarterback in that number 2 spot and they get rid of Sam Darnold. Not saying Sam Darnold's gonna be horrible, but I don't know. He move on from the Jets. It's time for both parties to say goodbye and have a nice day. But they have a few pieces that seem like they're building blocks. They have a lot of cap space as well. I could see them. They kind of have a lot of assets to use to build a team decently well in one off season. So I could see them making some crazy strides, and they could be a different story 3 months down the road. So it'll be a team to keep an eye on. And moving to my beloved AFC North division, let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. As a Browns fan, I respect Lamar Jackson. I still think they're limited with him being their quarterback. I think they're going to always make the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to ever really make a Super Bowl / win one with him. Yes, he doesn't have weapons either, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Draft a freaking guy, sign one of the guys in the free agency. That changes. I don't know if it will make that much of a difference. I have a few holes, I feel like, in the team that people don't really mention, and I don't know. I feel like people in the national media always give the Ravens more credit than I think they should right now, and I'm being unbiased when I say that, trying to at least. I think they'll be a good team. Like I said, they're probably I'd put them as the front runners in the division, but I don't know if that's saying anything too crazy. Moving to the Bengals. Bengals, I think, are an underrated team with Joe Burrow coming back. If you could just get like 2 big guys in the front, help block the freaking guys who doesn't get chopped up, and add like 2 pieces on defense, and I think they'll be a completely different team. They obviously need more pieces on defense and the offensive line, but just get a few playmakers, and I think that can make a difference. And you can see this team being like a sneaky 500 or a little bit above 500 team, which for them at this point would be fantastic. Obviously, I think their head coach is kind of holding them back too, Zach Taylor, but the Bengals are notorious for not firing a guy after 30 years, so we'll see how that goes. Pittsburgh Steelers, I want to be biased and not biased at the same time. I think they're a hot mess. I think I like the move that actually in their situation they could bring back Ben Roethlisberger. I don't think there's any other option to. What else will they do? They can't really get anyone in great free agency because there's nobody. Unless you make a crazy trade, I just don't see that happening. In the draft, they just have too low of a slot to make any crazy move. So I understand that, but having said that, I just don't think Ben Roethlisberger is that great anymore. Yeah, they had a great record early in the season. What do you do? The whole AFC North, including the Browns, had an easy schedule, so get over it. Nothing to be excited about. Defense is still good. They have some more pieces now that they need to replace, and their offensive line is garbage. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. Finally, the beloved Browns. I would say in the AFC North, the Browns are probably the toughest competition for the Ravens to win the division. I think from our standpoint, our defense is atrocious. We need to add more pieces in the defense and just get playmakers outright, whether that be via free agency or draft. Both, I think, would be ideal. Offense, I think hopefully the national media is giving us more credit than we should get for how well our offense played. I think there's still room for improvement, whether that be Odell coming back and hopefully working with Baker, or us just trying to get like another deep threat wide receiver. I thought towards the end of the season our offense is kind of blah, to be completely honest. And that was a little byproduct of everything of our play calling, not running the ball as much. Baker Mayfield played well. I don't want people to say he didn't. The second half of the season he played well. First half of the season I thought he played okay. Second half he played really well. Playoffs I thought he played really well too, which is very encouraging. But I think the play calling needs to be a little bit better. I think we need another weapon or two in offense. Step up. Our offensive line was the top ranked this past season by PFF. I don't see that happening this year just because it's usually a tough thing to keep consistent. I could still see us being a top 5, top 10 offensive line, but we should probably expect that to drop. And like I said, our defense is a complete mess. We have Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and that's about it. We have Ronnie Harrison, who I like. Grant Delpit, who should come from an injury, and hopefully we can see if he'll be okay. Greedy Williams has that shoulder injury. I'm still not banking on that. Outside of that, we have nothing. But hopefully, I think we would be the toughest competition for us and the Ravens to fight for the AFC North. But yeah, so that's a quick synopsis of all the I think that's how you say that. I don't even know. Of all the 32 teams in the NFL. Yeah, people get comment. I don't know as much with certain teams. I might have messed up some stuff. Sorry. Whoop you do. Focus mostly on the Browns, AFC North, AFC, and then the NFC is just kind of like whatever. If they're on, they're on. If I have nothing else going on, I'll obviously keep the NFL news going with watching it, and hopefully I'll start reporting stuff on this channel, maybe a little bit more too, if you guys like what you heard or if you have any comments, ideas. That'd be great. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll talk to you later. And please like and subscribe too. Thank you.